And we're back for another episode. In this episode, we're going to be carrying on the main story in Endwalker. And as always, hello from Mithrie. So, we are here in Sharlayan, in the main hall, and we need to talk to Kryl. The next quest is called Hitting the Books. So, Kryl is intent on uncovering the reason behind the forum's inexplicable behavior. So, an unsettling change has come over Sharlayan, but together we will divine the underlying cause of the forum's callousness. As I mentioned before, however, questioning the councillors directly is a fruitless endeavour. They seem to have already come to a consensus as to what and how little they are willing to divulge, which is why I began scouting Sharlayan's archive for historical records for any hint of a connection to the final days. Suffice it to say that progress has been slow. There are only so many dusty pages one can skim in a day, but now that I have this band of willing reinforcements, the search should proceed all the swifter. Let's reconvene outside No Midnon, shall we? Exit the annex to the right and you'll find the archives on the western edge of the woods. Interesting. Okay, so let's finish this quest line and then we'll come back to Thancred. Okay, so let's see where we're headed to. Ooh, the hunt for specimens. Okay, I wonder what that's about. I'll have to look at another time. Well, it's not too far away, so let's just keep it going. Well, I thought it wasn't too far away. I guess I'm still getting my bearings with the size of this place. Okay, here she is. So, my directions were easy to follow, I hope. In any case, you now stand before the doors of Nominon, Sharlayan's grandest collection of books and tomes. This building is actually only at an entrance, and one of many at that, for the archives of Nominon extend deep beneath the surface like the roots of a tree. The vast halls of the Great Google Library pale in comparison to Nominon's endless maze of subterranean chambers. Any citizen of Sharlayan is free to enter and peruse the shells. Well, most of its shells. Only Archons are afforded access to certain restricted vaults. I've dispatched Y'shtola and Raha to investigate those. Meanwhile, Elise and Alphanode will help me continue my search through the stacks open to the general public. Your status presents more of a problem. As a non-citizen, you are only permitted to browse the first floor at the entrance. Even so, there should be a number of books which touch upon Sharlayan history or foreign policy. Your task will be to find and study the relevant publications. I promise you, a working knowledge of those subjects will make it far easier to spot the sort of clues we're looking for. Let us be about it, shall we? I've told the others to meet us at the stone benches over there once they've found some promising tomes. Happy reading. Okay, so we need to read books. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. Brightly coloured book. The title on the spine reads The Story of Sharlayan. Read the book. Long, long ago on the island in the Northern Sea, there lived a Rogadin man by the name of Nyancraft. Nyancraft was a student of astrology, and he divined that a flood of terrifying proportions would soon sweep over the land of Eorzea. So it was that he built a gigantic ship, assembled a crew, and set sail for the imperiled realm. The flood arrived as foretold, and to their horror, the strangely churning waters drove the people towards the ocean. It was said, however, that Nyankrep's crew pulled them aboard his ark, and the danger had not passed. Towering wave approached, threatening to smash the vessel to pieces. With only moments to spare, Nyankrep wove a mighty spell of teleportation and shifted the entire ship to safely atop Alba Fia's spine. Refugees from the surrounding regions huddled there alongside them, but it was not long before disputes over the dwindling supply of food led to violence and bloodshed. Saddened by the sight, Nyankrep gathered to him his crew and his grateful passengers, and abandoned the ark to those reddened peaks. They journeyed to the coast, where they built a new ship, intent upon returning to the northern seas. They landed on the beach of an island and settled upon that very spot. That settlement prospered and grew, and in time it became the city of Sharlayan we live in to this day. Interesting. Okay, so the title of this spine reads Roads of Old, the Colony. So, many years ago, on the banks of the Faliak in the Dravanian hinterlands, a Sharlayan colony once thrived. This settlement was originally established as a mere outpost to the study of Ethereal Sea in the year 1311 of the 6th Astral Era. Scholars dispatched to Eorza found the facilities wanting, and their demands encouraged a gradual expansion in structures and services. As rumors spread of a growing community of academics, the area was further inundated with Eorzian students, hoping to share in the renowned wisdom of the Sharlayans. 50 years later, the Forum passed a motion to recognize what had become a flourishing town as an official Sharlayan colony. The Eorzian residents took to calling the colony itself Sharlayan, which led to no small amount of confusion when discussions turned to the subject of the motherland. In response, some Sharlayan inhabitants, if pressed for a name, would simply refer to it as Emporium. Following the Great Exodus, however, goblins and treasure hunters claimed for themselves a corner of the abandoned colony and gave it yet another name, Idleshire. Following chapters go on to introduce the most prominent features of Idleshire. This book does not appear to contain additional information on the Forum, or cover the history of Sharlayan motherland in greater detail. Fair enough. Okay. So the title of the spine reads The Voice of a Growing City. Read the book? Sure. So in the years which followed the founding of Sharlayan, civic policy and other matters of import were decided at the Alessia, a public forum at which every citizen was eligible to speak. As the city's population grew, however, this format became increasingly impractical. The larger number of participants gave rise to ever longer debates, resulting in significant delays of vital resources. Various measures were introduced in an attempt to curtail protracted discussions. But in the year 2.1 of the 6th Astral Era, it was ultimately decreed that Sharlayan would transition to a new form of governance. The nation would now be led by a body of 99 members, citizens chosen from amongst their peers by means of a nationwide vote. Thus was the Forum as we know it today conceived and created. Cool. Right, let's keep going. On here. So the title on the spine reads An Introduction to the Heavens. Read the book. So have you ever gazed at the skies above and contemplated the mysteries contained therein? I speak not of shifting cloud patterns, but of the vastness beyond, of the sun and the twinkling tapestry of the night. Something of the doom above us to be a finite spate. Yet amongst the leading fingers of our rage, our scholars' depiction of a boundless sea of stars has firmly taken root. Alas, this heavenly sea remains an unreachable, unknowable destination. There are few indeed who can explain, in satisfactory detail, why our own star is believed to revolve around the sun. It was the technologists of Alag who came closest to understanding the laws which govern the starry abyss. It was they who launched Dalamud and sought to expand beyond our earthbound existence. Having read of their ancient ambitions, I wonder, has your interest in this field of study waxed or waned? What if I were to tell you that the eternal constellations were arranged differently in the distant past, that their positions continued to shift almost imperceptibly but measurably as we journey into the future? Would it shock you to learn that the stars drift further and further apart, and may indeed do so forever? Are you eager to learn more? But the book is on the robbed subject. Search for the works that contain details of the Forum and mention the history of Sharlayan. I mean, I'm just going to read them all. Apparently, I'm a nerd now. So, the spine reads, Forever 20 Summers. This is not likely it. My beloved seekers of knowledge, have you ever put learning before your health and neglected to feed and rest your body as you should? I too once engaged in such foolish practices, but one night, engrossed in philosophical study, I had an epiphany. For all the world's mysteries that drive us reckless abandon, we have so very few years of life in which to achieve our goals. Thus do I share with you this mantra. I am forever 20 summers young. The number itself is unimportant. You could be 19, you could be 23 or 40, whatever age you are when you discover this manual. Let that be the age you aspire to remain. Through mindful, healthy living, you will extend the time available to spend upon your chosen research. Another day, another moon, another summer to grasp the greater truths of your pursuit. In the pages that follow, we will explore the secrets of maintaining one's physical condition from a biological, ephemerological, and arcane viewpoint. Wrong subject. Okay, next. Okay. Stewards of Wisdom. So, during the chaos of the Sixth Umbral Calamity, Archon Nyankrept, founder of Sharlayan, bore witness to the madness and savagery of men brought to the brink of despair. Upon raising a settlement on an island in the northern empty, he instructed his people thus: renounce the ways of war and pursue enlightenment through knowledge and reason. The Sharlayans took to heart the words of their savior, and thenceforth served as the stewards of wisdom. Upon the foundation of accumulated learning, they built a homeland unlike any other, a nation born from the strength of minds rather than strength of arms. With knowledge of economics came shrewd trading. With knowledge of agriculture came bountiful crops. Engineering brought wells and sewers, ending squabbles over water. Wealth of expertise could be bartered for wealth in coin, and the more their wisdom spread throughout the world, the more mankind as a whole would thrive. And so it was that no matter the trials and tribulations of the age, the citizens of Sharlayan would live by their founders' teachings. For the sake of a better tomorrow, for the sake of a brighter star, they would eschew the tools of war and with knowledge deliver the world. You have gained a fundamental understanding of Sharlayan history and the foundation of the Forum. Head outside to the rendezvous point and await your companions. Oh, So I basically read every single book in this place, even though I didn't need to. Alright, so now let's go back. Let's see if Krill is there. Okay. Sorry, were you waiting long? I wanted to make sure that I'd borrowed at least a few promising volumes. Alphanode and Kryl should be along shortly. I was delayed in a similar fashion. As far as I could see, no titles in the Archon stacks mentioned the final day specifically, so we have no choice but to start with the tangentially relevant terms, if they are even that. At present, the plan is to skim through as quickly as we dare, and share our discoveries as we make them. It would be nice to invite everyone to the estate, plenty of comfortable places to read, and a ready supply of hot tea. Oh, I was always quite fond of reading outside. But it's not about the little pleasures, is it? You miss your home. It's been difficult. After our arrival, we managed to speak with one of the family servants and ask how things were. It seems our dear father has instructed the staff that even if Alphanode and I were to return to Charlian, we were not to be allowed across the threshold. A harsh measure indeed. I hope that our efforts to understand his position at the forum will perhaps lead to a reconciliation. We'll mend this rift one day, I'm certain of it. And what of you, Graha? Have you been to visit your family, or do they not live here in the city? Oh well, my situation is also somewhat complicated. I was raised in Charlian, yes, but I was born rather further away. In the southern reaches of Isilbard, in fact. For generations, my people have dwelt in Corvos, the coastal region opposite the island of Favnir. The Allegans founded a city in the fertile land. Bashir brought in the subjugated tribes of the Makote to serve as labourers. Of course, the massive earthquakes of the Fourth Umbral Calamity brought an end to the Empire's reign, and when the Fifth Calamity froze the sea solid, many of the tribes still living in Corvus braved the journey back to Eorzea. My ancestors, however, chose to remain, that they might prevent the remnants of Allegan technology from being misused. Isn't Corvo's under Garlean rule? For the past 50 years, yes, some semblance of local culture remains, as is the case for most imperial provinces, but Garlemald renamed the region Locus Amios. And when I was a boy, a nearby town came under the jurisdiction of an illustrious imperial family, the nobles of House Durnus. House Durnus demonstrated a singular interest in Allegan civilizations, and so my tribe was forced to consider a plan of action. And for some time already, voices had been raised in favor of abandoning our ancient customs. After all, the Allegan eye no longer passed to our eldest children as reliably as it once had. Fear of discovery eventually tipped the scales, and the decision was made to bury our ties to the knowledge and traditions of Allag. As the last child born with the Allegan eye, I was given over to the custody of the friends in the students of Bardassian, who had me registered as a Charlian citizen. I never even considered, forgive me. It was an unkind question. Even Thancred was taken in by Archon Louis Suave, was he not? Stories of adopted waves and rescued orphans are more common among Sharlayans than you might think. Yet regardless of our origins, we are all provided with an equal opportunity to learn, and with sufficient perpicity, we ourselves can even earn the vaunted title of Archon. This is exactly why I have such love for this country, and why I wish to remain a nation of which its citizens can be proud. Here, another good reason to get to the bottom of the forum's stubbornness, aside from the trifling matter of our impending doom. Excuse us while we try to make some headway into these books, Mithrie. More company should be arriving any moment now. Okay. We've returned with our selections. Although I must say the pickings were quite slim indeed. Mistress Kryl has already flicked through every history book devoted to disasters, and more than a few which barely made mention of them. As such, we will be looking into research papers of the Umbral calamities, as well as articles written by prominent forum members. Perhaps their knowledge of the final days comes from an unexpected source. Speaking of which, might I ask you a few questions related to the final days? I'm the only one here who didn't witness the events of Amarot firsthand, and I fear I may be overlooking certain critical details. Oh, thanks. Now where to begin? First things first, what kind of phenomena did the ancients encounter as the final days grew nigh? Complete destabilization of creation magics, primal of unraveled power were summoned from the Aether, the worst kind of phenomena you can imagine. I believe Eidolon and Zodiac was summoned after the final days had arrived, quite deliberately in fact. If we are speaking of phenomena caused by the final days, the chaos of creation magics run rampant is what comes first to mind. Fear and despair manifested in terrible tangible fashion. Meteors raining from the sky, the erupting from the ground, indescribable abominations prowling the streets. The more or less aligns with my understanding. If only the arts of creation had survived until the present day, we might have had something substantial to analyze. To the best of our knowledge, however, those techniques were not preserved or passed on. Yustola surmises that the closest known magic is that of the summoning rituals proclamated by the Ascians. Was there aught else of note which heralded the approach of the final days? The entire tower was engulfed by disaster all at once. They say it began with a kneeing sound from the land itself. Alphanode can answer this one. I think you may be misremembering. As I recall, 'twas more of a gradual spread. The Armoritines spoke of a kneeing sound that rose from the land itself just before region was visited by catastrophe. We never did hear this sound ourselves, of course, thrust as we were into the midst of the madness. So the ground was crying out, as you say. To be considered the harbinger of doom, it must have been quite distinctive and probably quite loud. I'll have to speak with one of Nomenon's mammoths and ask after any books which make mention of such a sound. Last but not least, would you describe how the ancients sought to quell the unprecedented calamity? What definitive action did they take? They summoned Zodiac, they summoned Hydaelyn, they knocked Dalamud from the sky. Probably wrong. Surely you can't be serious. Yeah, I'm definitely wrong. That was the Seventh Umbral Calamity, hardly an event of the distant past. And even if Dalamud had existed at the time, bringing down a moon of any kind would surely only make things worse. The ancients summoned Zodiac in response to the final days. Many sacrificed themselves to bring him into being, with Elidibus serving as his heart. We do not know exactly how Zodiac brought salvation to the star, only that his godlike will were the laws of nature set aright. Then, once the balance was redressed, the ancients offered up a further sacrifice to heal the ravages of the final days. Life sprouted anew, and it was these fledgling souls they intended to render onto Zodiac, a trade that would have allowed them to resurrect the shades of loved ones absorbed by the primal. Or might have. Had Vanat and her fellows not manifested their opposition in the form of Hydaelyn. Thank you, both of you, for your detailed review. Yeah, I was a big help. I feel much more confident now that I'm in my understanding of events. With all these freshly in mind, it does make me wonder what the Telephoroi really mean when they speak of bringing back the final days. We've seen what they're doing with those towers of theirs. Is forcing people to summon primals a kind of catalyst? Are they attempting to mirror the conditions caused by the unstable creation magics? Or are they simply using the final days as a figure of speech? A convenient metaphor for the scale of destruction they plan to unleash? Well, this is all pointless conjecture at this stage. Let's return our attention to the forum, shall we? We should keep an eye out for Y'shtola, but this time we began studying these research papers. Okay. At this place again. So, I'm the last one, am I? Well, my extended search of the Archon stacks produced one or two possibly useful books, but I wouldn't get your hopes up. If you recall, Urianger learned of the source's reflections from the Gerum oracles. For its potential to cause panic and confusion, that tome was deemed apocrypha, sealed away in the Great Google Library. It is even less likely that knowledge of the unsundered world, not to mention the horrors of the final days, would be left sitting on a shelf for any curious scholar to find. It stands to reason that then that my colleagues, be they archons or counselors, should pre-force to largely ignorant of the subject. Pre-force? Per-force? Whatever. Yet when you confronted Master for Channel with knowledge of the Telephoroi and their machinations, he scoffed at the suggestion that they posed a threat. He seemed adamant that the Forum would know if the final days were truly upon us. Which only supports the conclusion that whatever privileged wisdom is guiding the Forum's behavior, it is being kept secret from the rest of the nation. Not that I mean to exude myself from the reading duty. Whether they contain mention of the final days or no, these books could yet hold something of value. You weren't thinking of leaving, were you? There's plenty of work for everyone. So, for labor... Sorry, you labor for what feels like an age as Yatola's research assistant. Great. Oh dear, you look exhausted. But what about your studies? Were you able to find any books on the subjects I mentioned? Then the day was well spent. Should you wish to read them again, a mama at the references will point you in the right direction. For the moment, though, I suggest you take a well-deserved rest. We might be occupied with our research for quite some time. Cool. So let's finish hitting the books. And now we have the next quest. It's called A Seat at the Last Stand. Elise appears in desperate need of a study break. Ready for a tea break, Mithrie? I know I am. Honestly, my neck and shoulders are going to calcify if I don't stretch my legs and walk around for a bit. You know the last stand down in the harbour, don't you? Come and meet me near the outside tables and I'll treat you to their coffee. It's quite good. Alright. So, once we get there, we will continue. Okay, so we made it to Elise. Let's talk to her. So, as busy as ever, I see. How very Charlian that no other gourmet cafe has sprung up to compete for customers. Actually, this crowd gives me an idea. Before we place an order, why don't we ask a few questions and gauge the mood of the city? I'm interested to hear what the average citizen has to say about the Telephoroi. We might even learn something new. Worth a try, don't you think? So Elise is now accompanying you. Keep an eye out at your side in order to proceed with quest objectives. Leave Elise behind. Okay, so she's now accompanying me. So let's see who we can speak to. So, what is it? Can a man not enjoy a moment of private respite? If you're looking to share a table, then I respectfully request that you look elsewhere. So, you misunderstand, sir. We were simply wondering if you knew the Telephoroi. These enemies of peace have promised an end to all we hold dear, and... Wait, you're that House Leveleur girl, aren't you? And this woman with you is obviously a foreigner. Huh. I've heard you were disowned for helping outsiders indulge their barbaric whims, and here you are giving truth to the rumour. I'll thank you to leave me be. I've naught to say to the likes of you. Well, I must apologise. 'Twas foolish of me to expect an ounce of civility from one so enlightened. Come, Mithrie. Okay, let's see what else we can talk to. Over there. So, yes, I don't believe I've had the pleasure. Pray excuse the interruption, but we were hoping that you might share your thoughts on the Telephoroi and the unconscionable plans. My goodness, if it isn't the young Miss Leveleur. My apologies, but I work for the office of the Forum, and if word reached Master Fortunal that I was helping you... I see, we're sorry to have bothered you. So basically, it seems like they're not going to get anywhere unless they can end the rift with the father. So welcome, madam. What can I offer you today? Wait, is that Mistress Elise I see there? My word, how long has it been? Far too long. Meet Dickon, the owner of the Last Stand. I used to frequent his cafe on occasion in between lessons at the Studium. That seems like an age ago now. I remember hearing that you and Master Alphinaud had set sail for Eorzea, but then you never came back. Lately there's been gossip about your father disowning the pair of you. Everything alright at home? It's complicated, and I hadn't expected complete strangers to be so familiar with our situation quite so quickly. Everyone has an opinion, it seems. Well, it is House Leveleur. No matter how discreet Master Fortunal may have been, news of your family's doings never stays secret for long. Things being what they are, what brings you back to the city now, of all times? We have questions, and only Charlian has answers. Tell me, Master Dickon, have you heard anything about an apocalypse called the Final Days? Well, like the end of the world? Nothing like that, I'm afraid. And that's what you're here to find? Information on this apocalypse? Yes, whatever we can learn. Unfortunately, your patrons appear to be unwilling to speak to me. I wish there was more I could do to help. Maybe there is. You're a visitor to Charlian, aren't you? Then few will know your face. We should be able to pass you off as a server with none the wiser. We just finished preparing a few orders. Strike up some friendly conversation while you're setting down the food, and you might just get the answers you're looking for. Not a bad idea. I hate to ask, but what do you think? That's the spirit. Pay attention now, and I'll explain where each of these dishes needs to go. The tea set is for the chatty group sitting by the water's edge. The omelette is for one of the regulars, a Highlander by the name of Gisol. She's sitting at an outside table with a friend of hers. Behind them, you should see a Makote gentleman. He ordered the oven-baked lobster. Got all that? If you're not sure, just ask and I'll explain again. Good luck. Okay. Let's see if I can remember where each order is. Let's see. Let's see. I think this guy is trying to bomb the the video. Let's say omelette. I can't remember. Excuse me, I didn't order this. Where's my tea set? Oh. Ah, my tea set. Lovely. Thank you. The Teller for who? I'm sorry, I've never heard of them or their final days. My friends and I somewhat uninformed when it comes to the current events. Now, if you wanted to hear about ritual arcane practices to the 6th astral era, common and esoteric, then I'd be happy to talk your ear off. Cool. Give me a sec. Okay, so we're now at the next table. So I think we have to give them the omelette. Ah, finally. 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's dig in. No time to waste. Well, the Telefroy. Ah, yes, I remember seeing the name in the latest Gazette. That and some grand claim about the end of days. Same old senseless warmongering when these fools grow tired of spilling each other's blood. Best stay out of it, I say. The Forum made it the right choice, and I fully support our decision to remain neutral. Okay. But last but not least. Alas, the oven-baked lobster is mine. You have no idea how long I've scrimped and saved and suffered to afford this heavenly dish. The Final Days. This is the first I've heard of it. Although, that would explain why my friend has been rushed off his feet. It must be a busy time to be a gleaner. You don't know what a gleaner is. They're collectors of a sort. Traveled the world procuring things that we haven't got here in Shardigan. Priceless books, unusual life specimens, and so forth. So named for those folks who trail after the reapers in the field, picking up every grain which was missed. A. Aye, by all accounts, gleaning is a most meticulous and demanding profession. If these Telefroi make good on their audacious threats, then many uncatalogued rarities could be lost forever. Why else would the Gleamers be buzzing around in such a frenzy? Watch the harbour and you'll see what I mean. They're carting loads in from the docks all day. It's never been this hectic before, not like this. Alright, so let's now go back and talk to Elise, who's just over there. Any trouble with the customers? Were you able to get anyone talking? Interesting. They seem unaware of the final days, aside from whatever vague news the gazettes are printing. Even Deacon has nothing to offer, and he's the best source of gossip in the city. If the forum does have secret knowledge, then they've done an impressive job of ensuring no one whispers it in the wrong ear. In any case, thank you for playing the part so well. Here, that cup of tea I promised. But let's enjoy our drink somewhere else, shall we? Maybe behind the prairie style, away from the gossips and their wagging tongues. Alright, so... Alright, once we get to where we will continue. Alright, so here we are with Elise. Let's talk to her. Yes, it should do quite nicely. Out of the wind and out of sight. Despite the 100 witnesses.
When our father disowned us, I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It wasn't until much later that his words began to sink in, that I began to feel the weight of what it meant. Do you remember when the decision was made to come to Sharlayan? Graham said that the Forum was determined to keep us in the dark, and that Father's venomous performance was part of that strategy, to keep us at arm's length. Perhaps it was. Father argued with Grandfather on many occasions, but never with such dismissive contempt. And when he demanded what justifies the sacrifices we make in war, I honestly didn't know what to say. Neither did Alpha know, I know, but never for one moment did I believe we had made the wrong choice. So all I could do was fume silently. It was only afterwards that I realized how childish I had been. How being stubborn and self-righteous must run in the family. If I could have just mustered a civil response, then things might have turned out differently. They must be ferrying goods to Labyrinthos. A vast complex beneath the island. Sharlayan is famous for archiving knowledge from around the world. Well, that knowledge is not preserved exclusively in dusty tomes and desiccated samples. Our living library, comprised of all manner of flora and fauna, is housed and studied within that underground facility. Still, that did seem to be an unusually large shipment. When I lived...
Alright.
Wait! Didn't you hear something in the last stand about the gleaners coming and going more than usual? Well, I think they're the ones we saw manning those boats. And gleaners answer to the Forum. If the appearance of the Telophoroi prompted this sudden burst of activity, then Labyrinthos may hold a clue as to what the Forum is planning.
Are they like a propaganda machine for the Forum? Cool. Let's complete that quest. Alright, next quest is called a Labyrinthine Descent. Elise is excited to share your revelations. We should tell the others what we've learned about the Gleaners. Go on ahead to Nominon and I'll join you in a moment. Master Dickon will want his cups back. Okay. So... once we get there, we will continue. Okay, so I'm now back with Kryl, so let's talk to her. Welcome back, Mithrie. Been for a walk and cleared your head, have you? Not exactly. We did some impromptu investigating and turned up information on the Gleaners. Makes sense. The Gleaners take their requests directly from institutions and bureaucrats, but as you say, they ultimately answer to the Forum. A sudden and significant increase in Gleaner traffic and in cargo, it certainly gives the impression of an overarching plan being put into motion. Let's see what theory we can build from the facts. As you observed earlier, Nominon's archives appear to contain no information concerning the final days. Coupled with what Mithrie and Elise learned at the last stand, we can be reasonably sure that most Sharlayans know nothing of that particular period of ancient history. Yet my father and his colleagues are not only familiar with the final days, but also somehow certain that the destruction being perpetrated by the Telophoroi is wholly unlike these apocalyptic events. Moreover, the Forum claims to be so occupied by a duty of such pressing importance that they saw fit to unanimously deny Eorzea's request for aid. And now the Gleaners, official agents of the state, have been mobilized on an unprecedented scale. I do not think it a stretch to conclude that the Gleaners' recent activities are in service of the Forum's secretive ends. In which case, our next course of action seems obvious. We visit Labyrinthos and assess the situation for ourselves, and if we're lucky, the Gleaners will be far more receptive to our questions. Fine idea. What should we expect down there? Anything would be better than breaking my head in another dusty book. I'm glad you approve. You won't be disappointed, I promise. As for myself, there are a few more subjects I should like to research. I may join you later, but feel free to leave behind your borrowed books and be on your way. I'll see to it that each is returned to its proper place. That would be a great help. Thank you, Ray. Raha. Let's head down the stairs over there, and I'll show you where the entrance is. Okay. Equal with Elise and follow her lead. Okay, where is Elise? Okay, right there. Ready? Labyrinthos is not too far from here, but you may find the path a bit disorienting. I'll lead, so stay close. Follow her, do not fall behind. Okay. Okay, off we go then. Even my walking speed is quicker than this. And we won. Keep up. Okay, good. The bridge, okay. Yeah. So, here we are. Through this door and down the stairs. You did remember to attune to the shard back there, didn't you? It will make your life much easier if you need to come back in a hurry. Otherwise, we should keep moving. Okay. So let's go down here. I save all the side world quests for later. Another class. We're all here now, yes? I've taken the liberty of securing permission for our group's descent. Right everyone, onto the lift and down we go.
Deep beneath the scholar's city shines a false sun within a fabricated sky. In any age exist those who consider the floor an extension of their bookshelves, and this vault's architects surely belonged to that special breed. If the stack grows too high, start a new one. If no room remains, then make more rooms. A simple solution at first, and then bit by bit, a profound transformation. Knowledge buried beneath knowledge, a growing, creeping labyrinth from which there is no escape.
Not what you expected. I must admit, the artifice is very convincing. But I assure you that we are beneath Sharlayan itself. The breeze you feel, the flowing waters you hear, all created by the hand of man.
The island is volcanic, you see. And once upon a time, this great hollow must have been a reservoir for magma. It was discovered some 400 years ago, at which point it was repurposed as a storage facility for scrolls and samples and such. Renovations have continued, with nigh on no interruption to this day, with the lower levels still undergoing expansion.
Aren't those people gleaners?
Aye, judging by their dress. They are said to work alone as a rule, but 'twould seem that rule is being enthusiastically broken today. It may be as you suspected, that they are engaged in a task apart from the norm.
Let's spread out and get some answers then.
Ugh.
Did you call to me just now? No. How odd. I must be a bit dizzy from the descent. I'll be fine, I'm sure. Let's get to work, shall we?
Okay. Okay, what do I need to do here? Weird music. Are you here to help or give me more headaches? Because you don't have the look of a gleaner, and I'm not in the mood for idle chatter. One of my colleagues was so exhausted he took a tumble and crashed into a pile of crates. Now I have a pack of marmots running loose. Your exchange with Aravel has taught you about exhausted gleaners. Okay. So let me think. The Raya seed should be 1059, sorry, 58. The Cunning Seas 1059. The Snowberry 1060. Where were they 1061? My head feels like it's stuffed with mako grass. Why not those take out then carry in? Sorry, why more loads to take out than carry in? Oh. Why do all this at once and risk mixing it up? What if someone mistakes Coorphan carrots with Girabanian carrots? What then? Exchange has taught you about large shipments coming in from Labyrinthos. Okay. Then let's see what this person has to say. You want to know what I'm doing? Hauling books and ore and fauna. It needs hauling. I haul it. Every decade or so, they take stock in Labyrinthos, you know. Sort and tidy up the inventory. Never seen an operation like this before, though. They just need a few summons ago, even. Then, with no warning at all, this mess gets dropped into our laps. Orders from the on high. Damned if I know the reason. Could be that they are changing the layout, preparing for the next expansion. Okay, taking stock in Labyrinthos. Alright. Let's talk to her. And Mithrie, what tales did Gleaners have to tell? Okay. So let's turn this in. So it says taking stock, large shipments, and exhausted Gleaners. So this grand operation began without warning, and for every item they bring in, they're sending more inventory somewhere else. That would explain the haggard faces I've been seeing. We were right, the forum is definitely up to something, and they are turning Labyrinthos upside down in the process. Awesome. Okay, so I think that's a good time to stop. So anyway guys, thank you for watching, and as always, goodbye from me and goodbye from Mithrie. Bye guys.